I've seen a lot of videos about this topic and people basically asking, is it actually possible to learn a language without studying? And I thought I'd give my opinion on it just to help you guys. So, here's basically the answer. The answer is yes and no, and it kind of does require an explanation. So, you can make progress in a language without studying. I'll just say that off the bat. So, by studying, I basically mean watching, for example, videos of people explaining topics within the language, taking notes, etc. Basically doing things to increase your understanding of the language. You can actually make progress in a language without studying, so you could be consuming content in that language, you could be just speaking with a native speaker, etc. There are plenty of ways to make progress without, kind of textbook studying intently the language. However, it's not necessarily the best way to do it. So a lot of people will bring up the fact that when you're a baby, for example, you don't actually study to learn a language. You kind of just, speak it to your parents and you kind of just learn it over time. That's not really a good example, I don't think, of a language learning, because if you think about it, as a baby, you had a very different system of learning and a different brain, and you also weren't capable of studying at the time. You were only really capable of kind of listening and stuff because you didn't have a root language to learn from. And of course, it probably took you about 5 years to reach some level of fluency in your native language, depending on how advanced you were at speaking. So I do think there is something to be said for studying, and that it is advantageous in helping you to learn a language, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So I've drawn a little picture here to kind of help you. Here's you, here's the language. You're basically pushing a massive rock. You can try and learn a language by just talking with a native speaker and consuming content. I know Ollie Richards a lot of the time talks about, I can't remember the exact name, but basically a technique of consuming only content at the start of learning a language and not doing any studying at all. The reason I don't think this is a good idea is for two reasons. I know I said the reason. I think there's two main reasons that isn't a particularly good idea. One is because most learners aren't as advanced as him and would not have the patience to do that. So even if it works for him, it's certainly not going to work for beginner learners, and it's also not going to work for people with a different learning style. And the second reason I don't think that is particularly the most useful advice is because you can make more progress by doing a little bit of studying. If you're only consuming content, plus you potentially, do a little bit of looking into the grammar of the language, it's only going to make your life easier when you encounter problems, because you don't have to rope learn them. Some problems are literally just like a fix like that. Like, for example, if you're learning English and you have no idea why the S is being put on the end of words, you could try and rope learn it, or you could Google it, and Google would instantly give you an explanation as, oh yeah, we put S on the end of a word when it's a plural. So that is kind of an example of how you could easily fix something. But yeah, this is basically you, this is the language, and studying is kind of like, putting soap on the ground. I don't know why I drew that picture. It's basically making the progress like kind of a bit of a smoother ride and a little bit faster. So yeah, I would highly recommend studying. But with that said, here's what you should actually do that's going to be implementable and useful. So I'd highly recommend you set yourself an actual study schedule. A lot of people, I think, are kind of all over the place with language learning. They don't focus on a particular topic within the language. They don't set themselves a schedule, etc. And this is, I think, why a lot of people are inconsistent and don't make reliable progress within the language. So I'd highly recommend you set yourself a study schedule. It could be 3 times a week, could be every day, whatever. And just literally, you don't have to take it so seriously. You can watch some videos from native speakers in your language. You can take notes. I'd recommend you target specific topics. So instead of bouncing around, you can bounce around if you want, but it's just better to target a specific topic and lock it down than to kind of do bits here and there. If you do need help finding content or native speakers in the language you're learning, comment down below and I'll give you a hand. Obviously, I can't link every single language in the description with resources, so yeah, just comment below and I'll help you out. But yeah, that is, I would recommend studying a few times a week at least, and then try and do one language learning habit every day. So it could be flashcards, it could be listening, could be any number of things. I've already made videos on that if you want to check them out on my channel, on things you can be doing every day to make progress in a language. And finally, I just say, make sure you're actually stacking progress and repeating. A lot of people will, start something and then they'll kind of move on to the next topic. This kind of goes back to targeting, but they'll basically go here and there, not, actually learning really anything. So just make sure you are actually, mastering a topic, and then you go back to it here and there, and make sure you are kind of refreshing your brain. And over time, you will find all of this new information does get locked into your long-term memory and you become a more proficient speaker. But yeah, that is basically the video, guys. If you want to check out my course that I built, you can look in the description. I've got a link in the description to my Discord as well, which is free, and feel free to subscribe as well if you want more videos like this. But yeah, thank you for watching and have a good one.